We got dirt bikes. What's up, everybody? Today, we're going to show you guys how to fix some dirt bikes. So we just picked up these two dirt bikes. We got a 2012 Yamaha TTR125 four-stroke for my daughter. She's 12. We got this bad boy here, which is a 2014 CRF 230F for Link, the young fella behind the camera there. And let's just show you a couple other bikes. This is my little, I don't even know what year this thing is, little Baja Mini. This is 2007, Baja Mini. Here in Canada, we have a store called Canadian Tire, and they used to sell these. They just got like a little Honda style engine on them with centrifugal clutch, rear brake. They're just a little putter around the yard and around the subdivision kind of bike. And over here, this is my 2001 YZ250 two-stroke. This bike's pretty fast, but it's got leaking fork seals. So we got to repair those. Now that the kids have dirt bikes, we're going to be riding this one a little more. So we'll show you guys how to do that in another video. And this is my buddy Garth. It's his bike. This is a 2004 Honda CRF 250R. We just kind of have it here. We do have to do some work on that. We'll show you a video on that one too. Okay, we've got some stuff to do on Zoe's little 125 four-stroke, and we'll get into it. So on Zoe's TTR 125, this is your rear brake, and it's sticking. So it's kind of, it needs some adjustment or something. I don't know. We tried to adjust it last night when we brought the bike home. But if you jam on it too hard, you're hitting the foot peg down here. So we're going to actually take the rear wheel off, and we're going to remove the brakes and inspect that. I think there's probably just some mud and junk in there. And if we need new brake pads, we'll figure that out. So we'll show you guys how to take the wheel off and look at that. Okay, so when you go to take a tire off a dirt bike, they're all fairly close to being the same. Some of them are different, but basically you want to know how much slack to have in the chain and roughly about where it was. This one here, if you go to the other side, Link, and you show the chain, this one I think has too much slack in the chain. You know, always consult your owner's manual, but I think that's too much slack. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to mark with Sharpie or marker. We're going to mark the axle adjuster based on that pin. And that's where we kind of have the bike set up right now. So we know roughly where to put it when we put it back together is in that spot. But we may actually need to tighten that up a little bit. And the way it works is you loosen off your axle nut. And this is a cam, so you can see how this edge of the cam is closer to the bolt than this edge of the cam. So as you rotate it, it'll move the axle away because the chain is always trying to pull it towards the front of, like towards the engine. So I'm going to mark the other side. We'll loosen off the axle. We'll drop the chain off, and then we're going to slide it back because I cannot get this arm off of the pivot shaft to remove that. We will also mark that one, right? I'm going to actually mark it right now before we forget, so that we know exactly where we're putting this one. Sometimes these brakes will have like a double spline, and they only fit in one spot, but I don't know for sure, so we're going to mark that. Mark the other side, and we'll start taking it apart. All right, so it's a 17 millimeter bolt head and nut on the axle. So I'm going to back this off because it's a lock nut on this side until it's quite loose. I'm not going to take the axle right out just yet though. There we go. So that's loose. So now you can see we can adjust these cams, right? So when those get loose, we can slide this whole thing forward, and it should give us enough slack to drop this this chain right off of the sprocket. Oh, if we can. Well, you know what? Because of where the position of this chain block and guide is, I think we're going to take that off as well. So let me grab some more tools and we'll get back to this in a second. That one. This one's right here. Okay. So now that chain block is out of the road, we should be able to pop this chain off. So we slide that forward. There we go. Chain's off. Now we can slide this back all the way. And now I have room on this side to remove the brake adjuster. Go ahead, have a look over there, Link, while I'm grabbing a wrench. So now this piece, when I take the bolt off, should slide past the swing arm, if we can get it out of there. So you can kind of see that it's holding the nut here on the back. So you have to turn the bolt side itself, which I think we're going to, oh no, we can't really put that in the other way. That's probably the right way to have it. Look and see, this is already loose. So we'll get this here in a second and we'll show you guys when we go to take it off. All right, so we can't get this bolt out of the arm here because of the axle. Never mind, we got it. Okay, so now that we've got that bolt out, we're going to take this shaft off, or the lever off the shaft. And then we go to pull the axle. Pay attention to the order of the nut, washer, cam adjuster, spacer. And then this side should have a spacer, maybe a seal, and everything else. So I'm going to grab a little pry bar to pop this off, and then we'll slowly take the rest out and just pay attention to how it comes off. Just doesn't want to come off. There we go. So that's, see, there's the splines in there that I was telling you about, that it's kind of, you got to line it up to take it off the next part. It just doesn't want to go. There we go. I think, I don't know. It's really dirty in those splines too, so. Just has to line up just right. Probably stop videoing that, buddy. All right, well, this wasn't working out with the pry bar taking it off the spline shaft, so we're just going to take it right off the linkage here. So this is something where you can either measure the linkage or whatever, but we're going to adjust it back once we're done to where it feels good, not so much where the last position was, just because I'm not too confident that we're going to have good brake pads or mud, or yeah, I don't know. So I think we're going to have to do a little more with this one. So anyway, we're just taking this off. We'll drop the whole wheel right now, and then we'll worry about adjusting the brake to the proper length and depth, or what, I don't, whatever you want to call it. Sorry, I'm getting frustrated here with this little bike already. Okay, so that's off. So now, like I was saying, pay attention to the order. What I like to do is I'll kind of lay them out in the proper order. When we go to take this right off, hopefully the bike doesn't flip off the stand. We'll pull it back a bit. There we go. Okay, so that bolt is out. So now when we come back and drop it down, see, here's spacer like I was talking about. And there's another one on this side. We'll set that there. And the bike is trying to fall off the stand, so let's try and scooch this back. Oh, man. Okay. Jesus. There we go. So now we have the wheel out of the bike. And to have a look at the brakes, we'll know right now. Okay. You guys can see, look at how dirty and junky and gummy these are. So we're going to get in here with the wire brush and stuff, and we're going to clean it all up. Take this all apart properly. And actually do a good job of cleaning. because this isn't working very good, and my little girl is going to get into an accident if she has no brakes. So the way that these brakes work is this is the cam. So you can see how when it fits flat, the brake shoes are in together. And then when this arm is rotated, it spreads the brake shoes apart into the drum that's built into the wheel. So obviously you can see it's stuck there. It's not moving, and there's been a lot of dirt and mud and corrosion in here. And that shaft seal, or sorry, not seal, but that shaft is not returning back to where it's supposed to. So we're going to take this apart. We're going to clean it all up. We're probably going to pop that shaft out. And we'll re-grease all that, and we'll put it all back together, and it should work just fine. So to take these off, there you go. You can just pop them out like that and take the springs off. You can clearly see there's a bunch of mud and everything there. I mean, like, no fault of the previous owner. Like, this is part of owning a dirt bike that you ride in the muskeg in the swamp and everything. It's just this is the part. You can see like that's sticking pretty bad. So I'm pretty sure that this will just drive out of there, and then we can clean it up and get it working better. So put it in the vise. We're not going to clamp it. I'm just going to set it in there so that we have some place to kind of hammer on. I'm just going to see if I can tap that out. Try with a dead blow first so we don't damage the shaft. Because if you mushroom this, you'll never get that brake arm back on. See, I'm starting to get that out. And as I'm doing it, I've worn off my marker, but there's also an indexing pin there. So I'm actually going to remark this before it comes all the way off. Well, that doesn't matter actually, because this isn't straight. If that was straight, that would make a big difference. Okay, we'll put this back. When we put it back on, it'll be more in a neutral position based on that this is not back to its neutral state. And then we'll just adjust the brakes accordingly. We'll show you guys how to do that. So I'm going to use a brass punch. So the brass is softer than the steel shaft so that I don't mushroom the head of the shaft out. So I'm going to use a brass punch on there and just finish tapping this out. There we go. So you can see all the dirt and junk on there. And there's even a groove that's supposed to hold like grease. So I'll clean this up on the wire wheel on the bench grinder using some safety glasses and probably a pair of ice grips. And then we'll clean out this hole. We'll clean this all up with a wire brush, and then we'll lube this up with some. You got to be careful when you lube it with grease, because if you put too much grease on there and it builds up heat, the grease can seep out and get onto the brakes, and then they were not going to work. So you don't want to lubricate your brakes. I don't know, maybe we'll use anti-seize. But I've said it before, though, I don't like anti-seize. We'll figure something out. My bench grinder likes to walk around, so sometimes I gotta put my foot on to hold it still. Stop moving. So you can see we cleaned up the outer part of the drum that holds the brake pads, and we've cleaned up the shaft. It's spotless now. And look at that. Fits perfectly into its home. So we're going to use anti-seize. I'm just worried about it getting warm and having the grease get hot and then run out into the brake pads itself. So we're just going to put a little bit of anti-seize on here. Be careful, you're going to end up like the Tin Man. So we'll put a little bit of anti-seize on here. Not too much. Oh, I got some on my fingers. Oh, it's going to get everywhere. I just know it. So we'll put that in. Okay. That's nice there. And I'm going to clean up this excess because I don't want this to get into the brakes itself. Okay. Now, we're going to pop the brake pads on. I don't think there's an in or an out. I think it's just because like they fit this way or they fit this way. So they have The exact same part numbers. So it shouldn't matter side to side. We just kind of brushed off inside here and on the flat parts just to kind of clean them up a little bit. Hopefully they won't hang up anymore for my daughter, so she has good brakes. But before we put that on, I'm going to just put a dab of anti-seize on here where this pivot point is, as well as on the flat parts here where it goes in between on the cam for the brake pads. So this is super easy. If you guys saw how they came off, if you just put the springs back into the brake pads, roughly like that. Now, if I hold the brake pads like this and I just put them over top of their respective homes and then fold them out, they should just pop right into place. Should just without. Okay. There we go. Perfect. So now that's exactly where it needs to be. And I'll show you gently with the vice grips, not with the arm, but there's how the cam opens. Okay, so to put this all back together, well, we kind of cleaned this up with a wire brush and blew it out with air. We brushed off the brake pads and stuff. So now this just fits into there. Oh, one more thing. Double check your bearings while you have it out. Nice and smooth on both sides. I already checked. It pops into here. This groove fits into this bracket on the swing arm. So I'm just going to pick it up, put the chain on, slide it into place. And then hopefully we can just put our spacers and our axle in, put it back together. So kind of slide it into place. The chain. There we go. We might have to actually take it off again to put our spacers in. I think that's what we got to do. So we're not going to fit this spacer in between because we can't move the wheel back and forth. So we're just going to put it in like that. So those two spacers are in place. Now with the chain on, we'll slide it up, get it centered. Okay, so we're in there. Bike's going to come level again. Now we'll slide our axle in. Okay, axle's in. We'll put our cam back on, washer, and the nut. So we'll put the chain in place. We'll adjust the chain tension, and then we'll put our brake back together. So it was on position like 3.5 or so on the cams for the chain tension. I put it to 4 because I think this is a little bit better. It's not as loose, so it's not going to slap the swing arm and stuff. So I'm holding it forward with my knee. So I got the cams on both sides, kind of where I want them to be. And I'm just going to tighten up the axle. You'll have to consult your manual for torque, and we'll torque this to spec. And now that this is tightened up, we're going to finish putting the brake back together on this side, and we'll put the chain guide back on this side, and then we'll torque everything, and it should be good to go. All right, so I wasn't happy with how the brake was setting up here. You guys can see the spring and the adjustments all the way out, and it's still not great. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out what to do, and I understand what to do. We're gonna back this all the way off. We're gonna loosen this bolt, or take this bolt out, and we're gonna move the arm one spline back. And that way we'll have more adjustment on here, and we'll get better brake engagement. That's how you fix that. All right, so we put it all back together, and we just did the exact opposite order of how we took it apart. Like we said though, with the chain adjusters up one more notch. Now, to make sure that we get this adjusted properly, if you look at how much I have to push the arm till it stops moving, that's full engagement of the brake. And you can see the brake pedal, it's hitting the peg, and there's just so much slack here. So we're gonna tighten this up. And it's also a little bit of personal preference on the rider itself and where they like to feel that. Some people like to have good engagement right at the top of the brake pedal. Some like having full travel. Like it doesn't matter. But as your brakes wear out, this is how you adjust them and take up the slack. so that you keep that good brake feel. When you put in new brake pads, you'll have to readjust it and it'll be all the way out. Let's see if we can get it close, and then I'll show you guys how it's not sticking anymore. So let's see. Still hitting the brake or the foot peg up there before the brakes are fully disengaged or fully engaged. So let's keep tightening this up a little more. Okay, now the brake pedal is just above the foot peg. Oh, that got really stiff. I think there's some damage on the threads there. So we'll see. Okay, now let's see where that's at. Still hitting. But we have good, I can feel the brake pad touching. So we'll just turn this up some more. Almost out of room here though. If this is the case, we might have to look and see if we can adjust this a different way, because, oh, that's way too much. Okay. I think kind of somewhere's in there. Judging by how much we have left on the adjustment here, we're gonna have to put new brake pads in sooner than later, but that's pretty good brake feel right there. All right, we'll finish putting our chain guide on, and that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed on how to try and fix your brakes on your drum brakes of your motorcycle.